I'm Corbett Wall with USDA Livestock and Grain Market News, here with your weekly feeder and stocker cattle market summary for the week ending August the 24th, where your big yearling feeders sold steady, maybe a little bit of catch up from your heifers as they were not as strong as the steers were last week, and there was some ups and downs across the country, but for the most part they came out steady. Now on your calves, prices run even. Your heavier calves weighing over 450 pounds all the way up to your bigger calves weighing into the sixes. There's not quite as many of those as there will be later in the year. But your heavier calves and middleweight calves, I call them, weighing in the fives, were kind of steady to weak as just some pressure on those types. Most of them are unweaned coming in right now. And we are starting to see some health problems on them as we're getting that late fall hot days, cold nights already coming in, and those cattle are kind of a challenge. But now on your lighter peewee calves weighing under 450 pounds, which there are considerable numbers of those, more than normal, as guys are weaning their calves early or just pulling them off the cow and taking them straight into town early to try to save as much of the herd as they can in many places. But those little peewee calves are selling $5 to $8 higher, as they're just going to be good property as long as you own them. If you can find anything to feed them just to keep them alive, whether or not you want to put weight on them or not, you just would like to have those down the line, especially going into next year. But on your big yearlings, we saw some pressure on those weighing over 800 pounds, which is a little bit hard to figure, and some firmness on those yearling feeder cattle. I'm talking about feeder cattle going right into the feedlot, feedlot replacements. A little firmness on your lighter weight yearlings, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And the only reason we would see higher prices and a firmer market on those weighing under 800 pounds is because they finish at a later date. And it's not our normal reason, which would be that they can cheapen those cattle up while they're on feed. In fact, these cost of gains are really starting to get up there. Got guys feeding up some old feed right now, but as time goes on and the opportunity cost of what they're feeding up right there, these cost of gains are really getting high, and they're higher than what the fat cattle market is. So if you figure fats are bringing around $1.20 right now, these cost of gains are going to be higher than that. And it shouldn't be very long before we start to see these yearling feeder markets invert, where the heavier weight yearling feeders sell at a higher price than the lighter weight yearling feeders, and expect to see that very soon. And you know, back in the old days, everybody fed over 90% corn, and back in that time, the old timers could tell you, I know what your cost of gain is going to be. You just double your corn costs and move the decimal over and say corn was $4 a bushel. They'll tell you your cost of gain is going to be 80 cents. It's not that easy to figure now, because we've got so much distillers coming in and guys using a lot of different things. This year it's going to be silage that they're going to use. Does your silage have quite a bit of grain in it, or did you have to add grain to the silage to make it? It's going to be a real wide separation between the different costs of gains in different areas and the availability of feed in that area. But you still got to figure these costs of gains are going to be getting up $1, $20, $30, $40, maybe $1.50 getting later in the year when it gets colder, and that is going to make a significant difference. But on your calves, your growing cattle, if we've got any fall pasture at all, those are going to be in high demand. Just anything that you can put cattle on to put weight on them that doesn't cost a whole lot of money. Fat cattle this week, steady to firm on the live side, from 120 to 121 dressed in most cases. Or on a live basis, excuse me, your dressed cattle $2 to $3 lower, from 187 to 188, and everybody kind of curious about why that is, and probably for the most part it's just the areas that normally sell dressed have got more market-ready cattle than some of the areas down the southern plains and places that normally sell on the live side. But starting to see a little bit of moisture pop up around down the southwest. They're getting some moisture on Wednesday. They had the second highest rain total in Las Vegas, Nevada. Some of that moving all across some awful dry country in the desert there, and they're thinking maybe we'll have some pop-ups come up in the Midwest and Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, some places that really need it. Southeast has had a lot of rain. Looks like they're going to get a whole lot more with this hurricane coming in. But we'll check out your regional weighted averages. In the north central states this week, a 600 to 700 pound steer cost you $148.78. Last week, $149.09, and a year ago this week, $140.32. Down the south central states, coming up through the midsection, same weight, 600 to 700 pound steer cost you $141.22 compared to $141.57 last week and $136.88 a year ago. Down in the southeast, the 600 to 700 pound steer cost you $134.06 compared to $135.06 last week and $122.49 a year ago. Highest cattle witnessed this week was on the northern video. Had a 400 head string of calves, not to come until late December, with a base weight of 440 pounds. They sell for $224 a hundred. They had Wagyu sired on the top side and Black Angus. The steers and heifers sold at the same price. So that was a value-added consignment there. Next week I'll be gone, and Greg Harrison, Good Cattle Man, be here to talk to you. So until next week, check out our website for more market news information at marketnews.usda.gov, and from the Regional Market News Office in St. Joe, Missouri. We'll talk to you next week.